Hello, everyone, and welcome back to DLC. I am Joey Fitz, and today we are diving into the world of Aska, a Viking survival colony sim hybrid that's in early access. If you've seen it in Steam, or if you've heard the buzz, I'll give you my takes and I'll tell you whether it lives up to this very hyped game. Before we get into the episode, I want to thank our friends over at Game.press and San Sailor Studio for the review copy. Let's jump in. So what is Aska? Now the pitch is that you get washed ashore after a monster attack and you're stranded in a harsh land. You have to survive, build up a settlement, attract villagers, manage resources, defend against threats, and balance all of this while dealing with seasons, hunger, and the gods. Some of it sounds like very standard survival crafting staples. But it's not just you against nature. You gradually shift into a leadership role, managing your NPCs, building a tribe, scaling up your base. The game is also co-op, so you can play it solo or with up to 3 of your friends. When I first loaded up Aska, what really struck me was how deliberate everything feels. Aska isn't rushing you, it feels slow and methodical. Mechanically, you start by gathering basic resources, managing thirst, hunger, crafting, building shelters, etc. Over time, you unlock new systems, your villagers, your roles, your defenses, and more. Visually, the game looks great. The environments, the weather, the lighting effects, they all do a really good job of making the world feel alive. And the music complements this. The music is a big highlight of this game. Now the game looks great and sounds great, but there are a couple of areas where it really shines. Number one is the transition from the survival to tribe management. Initially you've got to be really hands-on, gathering resources, fighting for your life, but as you recruit more villagers, they take over your tasks and the gameplay move is much more satisfying. It's a little bit like Power World in that you get helpers as the game progresses, but it's a little more grounded and it's a lot slower than Power World in that aspect. The villager system and role assignment is the second area I'd really like to shout out. Your villagers have traits, so they've got pros and cons, so picking who you are going to bring into your tribe genuinely matters. You assign them roles, whether that be gatherer, woodcutter, etc., and over time those roles become indispensable to the survival of your tribe. The pacing and the tone in this game is something that's worth talking about. Because it's slow, the pressure of this game doesn't hit you overwhelmingly early. You're given loads of room to make mistakes and grow. The setting of the game is also really interesting. The Viking myths, the gods, the harsh winters, the monster threats, it all gives you stakes that you wouldn't have thought about, and it keeps the action going. So the fourth thing that I'd like to shout out for this game is that it is still in early access. It's got loads of really good core systems, and the developers seem to want to continue adding to this very regularly. So by the time it comes out in full access, I think there'll be a massively complex but fun game here. Now, of course, I've just said it's early access, and no early access game is perfect. That's the point in early access. And Aska has a few growing pains. So I've got 4 of these that I'm going to talk about now. So the AI and the villager behavior quirks. Villagers sometimes stand idle. They misprioritize tasks, and jobs don't come out as good as you'd expected. The roles, some of the roles like archer or melee don't always matter, and villagers just charge into battle mindlessly. This is really frustrating when you spent a good chunk of time working out what you need for your tribe only for them to almost ignore what you're saying. The world itself looks and sounds great, but outside of your settlement it can feel really sparse. There's not enough interaction or meaningful content for this game to say that it is truly open world. There were times where you go outside of your settlement and I couldn't find anything really interesting to look at until I got back to the settlement later. I spoke about the game itself having a good pace at the start to not overwhelm you. I think that's great for the start of the game, but this pace doesn't pick up in a meaningful way. Sometimes there are points where you just have to wait and sit, or your villagers gather resources or catch up to you, and that can be really, really slow. I think another thing I'd like to focus on is combat and the threats that you come across feeling a little bit underwhelming. Combat's okay. It's all right, but it's not a standout part of this game. And when I think of a Viking game where you come across gods and monsters, I would hope that the combat is stronger than it is at the moment. Now, that's not to say that it's terrible. I would call it fine, but it doesn't feel satisfying just yet. Your defenses for your base as well are very, very easily destroyed. So I would like to see in a future patch, either they keep the defenses as they are, but you have different levels to them so they can be stronger, or a complete rehaul of how the defense for your base works. I found with the game, and once again, early access, but I found with the game that every now and then the frame rate really dropped, and it made this quite difficult to play. I also think that the UI and the menus are a little bit clunky, but that is a real bugbear of mine, and I'm really nitty-gritty picking for that to be the case. So there's some positives and some negatives there. I think that some moments that really stood out to me, and I think give a good idea of what the game is about. I remember in the early stretch, my character was constantly thirsty, starving, and trying to figure out how water sources work. That bit felt really tense, it felt really real, and it was really satisfying to get to understand that area. There was a point where I had summoned villagers and handed off the tasks, and when you first did that, you felt like you could sit back a little and actually plan what you're doing with your game. It felt like at that moment something clicked, and the game immediately felt more fun. On the downside, there were times that I did do that, but I ended up watching villagers standing idle and wander around, and I had to think about what I'd assigned them to do, and that pulled me out of the immersion quite a lot. Overall, the highs in this game are really fun, but the lows make it a bit of a frustrating experience. So here's where I land on Aska. It's really promising. It's a thoughtful survival colony sim with loads of charm and potential. Even in early access, some of the cores are really solid. They could do with improvements, and once they get that improvement, I think this game will be a really interesting one to watch and could be one for colony and survival sim enthusiasts. If you're looking for a more polished experience, strong combat, or smoother AI, wait till Aska can mature a little bit and then give it a go. Right, that wraps up my review of Aska. Thanks again to Game.Press and Sailor Sand Studio for the review copy. If you've seen this game or think it looks interesting, let us know in our Discord. Thanks for hanging out with me today on DLC. I've been Joey Fitz, and have a great day.